But for months now, you've heard me say that LA Knight needs to be called up to Raw or Smackdown ASAP. The week after WrestleMania. Get him on TV. Start pushing this guy because he is exactly the kind of person they could use right now, especially on the SmackDown side. The lack of depth that they have on these shows, they could use somebody like him. Well, he was at SmackDown this week. At SmackDown, not on SmackDown. The rumors were true. They are doing with him what they had pitched doing with Adam Cole. They auditioned him before the show as a manager. This was like a tryout for him in the role. We don't know how much wrestling he would actually be doing, but he was out there in the dark segment wearing a suit to introduce his first client as part of what he called Night Model Management. His first client, Mace. No longer out for retribution, I guess. Mace was wearing a blazer, a pair of shades, some Air Jordans, and he wrestled Eric of the Viking Jobbers. He actually wore his street clothes the entire match. I watched the whole thing, this entire segment. Somebody uploaded it right off, I don't know if it's the Canadian feed, right off the satellite feed. It looked like it was right off television. It just had no commentary because the announcers weren't at ringside yet. So I watched Knight's entire promo and the entire match. Mace coming out to make his entrance, and once the match started, it was just the hard camera view, but I watched the match. You know, LA Knight has something that not everybody has. He has the gift of gab. He has charisma. He has charisma all day long, but he's got the gift of gab. The man can talk. The man looks and sounds like a star, which is something they desperately need more of right now. He's also older than the kind of people that they want to be bringing up to the main roster. He turns 40 later this year. Hasn't spent a single day on Raw or SmackDown. He's going to be 40 years old, which is a strike against him right off the bat. We have seen them use MVP in a wrestler-manager role, mostly manager, but wrestler-manager role with the Hurt Business and Bobby Lashley, and they made a great combo. Maybe they see Knight in the same kind of role where he'll be a manager, but he'll also wrestle. I always spoke pretty well of Mace, even during the whole Retribution deal. Of all the names those guys were given, I thought Mace was the least worst of the bunch. He had kind of a cool-looking mask. He's got size to him. You know, Brendan Williams is a name I mentioned even a few times when he was down at NXT. He worked a lot of the live events. He never got called up to the NXT roster, but you've heard me mention his name before. They gave him a shot on Raw, on the commentary team under the name Dio Madden. Quickly gave up on him. Last we saw of him there, Brock Lesnar gave him an F5 through the announce desk. If he wanted retribution on anybody, it should have been Brock. So there's definite potential in him. I'm not against the idea of giving him another chance because nobody benefited from the retribution stuff. Every single person, you want a measure of how successful or how much of a failure your creative team is, your angle is. There isn't a single person, not one, who benefited from the retribution stuff who was any better for it when it was over. Every single person came out of that worse off than they were before they went into it. Ali, Mia Yim, Mercedes Martinez was like, fuck this, I don't want to have any part of it. After the first day, she was out of there. Back down to NXT. I want no part of this. I mean, Dijakovic is dead in the water. His career is done. So, giving him another chance, another life, another shot at having a life here on the main roster, I don't hate that idea. If anybody can make this work, I think LA Knight could do it. If he's running something of a modeling agency, maybe he adds Los Lotharios to his stable, the Lethal Lovers, because on Friday, we saw the first crack in the armor between them, the first tease of a possible split between Angel and Humberto after Humberto lost to Madcap Moss. I'd break up with my partner too if he lost to somebody named Madcap, wearing suspenders, even if he was my cousin. You have shamed the family name. You're dead to me. Raquel Gonzalez just debuted on the show. Now she's Raquel Rodriguez, but she just made her debut on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago. Maybe he recruits her as part of his new agency. This is all assuming this gimmick even makes television. Again, this was a one-time dark match tryout here. Maybe they do make television, but they decide to put the act on Raw and not on SmackDown. We don't know yet. My issue with this is that LA Knight was one of the top babyfaces on the NXT brand. I personally think he's better as the obnoxious heel. Evidently, they do too, if this is the role they're giving him. This is a heel role, heel manager role. But the guy was over in front of that audience. You need more top names on SmackDown right now. Not 6 months from now, not a year from now. You need names right now. And down the road, you'll get names like Braun Breaker who get called up. You'll get names like Carmelo Hayes and Grayson Waller who get called up. And those are the guys you hope that you can build around as the stars of the future. But until you get to that point, and until they're ready, and in a lot of cases they're not, you have a guy who already is. And he's not getting any younger. You have him waiting in the wings and you decide to bring him up as a manager? I think there's a better way to be using him right now. But if it gets him on TV, that's a first step. You know, when I joke about somebody like Xia Li, though, many times they call these NXT people up and they're quickly forgotten about or they give up on them. LA Knight isn't somebody to call up and then place on the back burner. This is somebody you can make money with right now if you really want to get behind him and give him a push. He can only do so much on his own. Vince McMahon has to want to get behind somebody like Mace in order for this to work. If they give up on him, they give up on Knight. And that's my other concern. Suddenly his success or failure is dependent upon not himself. It's tied to somebody else. And if they give up on that person, that affects him too. It's like being in a tag team. Look what happened to Wes Lee. They fired Nash Carter. What's going to happen with Wes Lee now? Now he's in purgatory now until they figure out what they want to do with him. That's my issue with this. But if anybody can make this work, again, the guy has the charisma. He's got the ability to go out there. If this is what they give to him, and I think he can make it work. But I think if they only see him in that role, that is a huge mistake. I think he can be of greater value to them in the ring at a time when they need more stars. Tommaso Ciampa is officially full-time on the Monday Night Raw roster. Shockingly, they allowed him to keep his name. I mean, I guess it beats the hell out of Tommy Tortellini. He must have given them the rights because, per this week's Observer, all of the talent recently received a memo from Vince McMahon decreeing that from this point forward, I wonder if he was coming down with stone tablets in each hand from the side of the mountain. He decreed in this memo that from this point forward, thou shalt not bring me any new talent using their real name or names that they used on the independent scene. I think we got that sense already based on Gunther and Butch. There was a segment on this show where Austin Theory announced that from now on, he is to be known only as Theory, since he and Vince McMahon didn't think the name Austin really suited him anymore. Stone Cold stunned the name right off the kid at WrestleMania. What a bump. That wasn't the last of the name changes for this week either. Unfortunately for these folks, they didn't have the same pull, I guess, that Cody Rhodes did. Raul Mendoza of Legado del Fantasma in NXT is now Cruz del Toro going forward. He was Cruz del Toro on TV on Tuesday without any explanation. Former NXT Women's Champion Kaylee Ray will now be going by the name Alba Fire, F-Y-R-E. And Casey Catanzaro will now be going by the name Katana Chance. Because you see, she was once on a television show called American Ninja Warrior. So now she is Katana Chance. Maybe she'll start dressing like Katana from Mortal Kombat, or she can wrap a blue mask around her eyes like Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles. I would say they could send her to the ring with a sword, but Drew McIntyre already owns that gimmick. Alba Fire. Oh my God.